The Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. All those not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Would those on the floor and our guests in the gallery please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by the Reverend Dick Corbin. He's the Director of Church Relations for Union Mission of West Virginia in Charleston. And then please remain standing as we are led in the pledge this morning by the junior senator from the 17th, Pastor Corbin.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we as citizens of this great state and senators in this chamber have agreed to collectively seek your divine intervention in the matters with which they will deal in this session. We recall, Lord, your admonition to blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. So we acknowledge you as Lord this morning and request your wisdom to permeate the minds of each one in here. In all of our ways, we'll acknowledge you, and Lord, you please direct our path. Inspire our minds with creative solutions to the pressing issues and problems that face our people. And then, Lord, may we individually live lives worthy, that there be no hindrances in us that would prevent you from blessing our efforts today. And then, Lord, put your protective hand on all who are assembled here and all of each one's family members wherever they are today. And we ask these things in the name of our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will those on the floor and those in the gallery please join me in citing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading of the journal.
West Virginia Legislature Senate Journal, January 18th, 2018.
The junior senator from the 8th requests unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Introduction of guest. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome our honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized as your name is called. As a guest of the senator from Berkeley, we have Michaela Hersham, and as guest of the senator from Putnam, we have Isabel Edmonds and Cassidy Pinson. If they would all please rise and the Senate make them welcome. Further introductions, the senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased to announce that sponsored by the West Virginia Academy of Family Physicians, our doc for the day, Dr. Mitch Jakes of Charleston, West Virginia. If he would stand and the Senate make him welcome.
Further introductions, the senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you all know, this is Southern West Virginia Day at the Legislature, and we have some incredibly talented and important people visiting us from Southern West Virginia. Among them, in the gallery to my left, is Chris Mitchell, Larry Studler, Tommy Adkins, Leisha Johnson, Gary McAllister, Rick Ryan, Joe Linville, John Paul Abbott, and Chip Schaefer. If they would all stand and the Senate make them welcome.
Further introductions, the junior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my senior senator from Kanawha County, two of our pages today, their mothers are here, and I would ask that they stand, Catherine Edmonds and Stacy Pinson, and I'd ask the Senate to make them welcome.
Further introductions, the senator from senior senator from the 16th, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your pleasure, as well as Senator from Jefferson and I, to have the chaperone of our page today, Mickey Hersom. We have Marty Steiner, and if she would stand and receive a warm Senate welcome.
Further introductions? Further introductions? Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of engrossed House Bill 4005, clarifying that appeals to the Supreme Court are a matter of right.
Communication will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Further communications from the House?
No, sir.
Communications from the Executive?
There are none.
Reports from standing committees?
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 37, equalizing penalty for entering without breaking regardless of time of day, and reports back a committee substitute for same, Senate Bill 39, creating Sexual Assault Victims' Bill of Rights, and reports back a committee substitute for same, and Senate Bill 292, relating to Commission on Special Investigations, and reports back a committee substitute for same. With the recommendation that the 3 committee substitutes do pass, respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The reports will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 75, relating to seller transfer of video lottery locations, and reports back a committee substitute for same. With the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 116, providing court costs collected under Second Chance Driver's License Program are not subject to 5% offset, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
Report will be received.
Does that go to finance?
Report will be received, and under the bill's original double committee reference will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration committee substitute for Senate Bill 134, authorizing Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management to engage individuals for emergency response and recovery, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Energy, Industry, and Mining has had under consideration Senate Bill 161, DEP rule relating to surface mining reclamation, and has amended same, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Randy E. Smith, Chair.
Report will be received, and under the bill's original double committee reference will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 172, Healthcare Authority Rule relating to financial disclosure, and has amended same, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Tom Takubo, Chair.
Report will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration the following bills dealing with DHHR legislative rules: Senate Bill 173, Senate Bill 174, Senate Bill 175, Senate Bill 177, Senate Bill 178, and Senate Bill 179, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass, but under the original double committee references, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Tom Takubo, Chair.
Reports will be received, and under the bill's original double committee references will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Energy, Industry, and Mining has had under consideration Senate Bill 228, Office of Miners Health, Safety, and Training Rule relating to operating diesel equipment in underground mines, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Randy E. Smith, Chair.
Report will be received, and under the bill's original double committee reference be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration the following bills dealing with the Lottery Commission, Racing Commission, and Tax Department legislative rules: Senate Bill 235, Senate Bill 236, Senate Bill 238, Senate Bill 239, and Senate Bill 240. and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass, but under the original double committee references, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair.
Reports will be received and under the bill's original double committee references will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 237, Tax Department Rule relating to farm-to-food bank tax credit, and has amended same and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Craig Blair, Chair.
Report will be received and referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration Senate Bill 267, increasing salaries of certain state employees, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, C. Edward Gaunch, Chair.
The report will be received and under the bill's original double committee reference will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
That's all I have, sir.
Reports from select committees.
There are none.
Introduction of bills. The Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill number 322 through Senate Bill number 333 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
The Senator from Ohio County requests unanimous consent that Senate Bill number 322 through Senate Bill number 333 be considered as having been introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Bills on third reading. Resolutions.
Senate Resolution 11 by Senators Stallings, Takubo, Ojeda, Boso, Plymel, and Klein, designating January 19th, 2018 as Southern West Virginia Day at the Capitol.
The Senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be put upon its adoption.
Senator from Boone requests unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and that the resolution be placed upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. The clerk will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 11 designating January 19th, 2018 as Southern West Virginia Day at the Capitol.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. The Senator from Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great pleasure to speak in favor of this resolution and speak in favor of the area from which has been my home and where I've made my living my entire life. The same area that has lost 40% of its economy. 40%. John Deskins, you remember this report, after propping up the state in the form of coal severance tax for many, many years. My county alone since 1978 has given $1.3 billion, with a B, dollars to the state's general revenue fund. That goes to state parks, colleges, universities. I remember the senator from Pocahontas, our good friend Walt Helmick, saying that they blow a mountaintop off in Boone County and send the profits up to my county, where I have 6 state parks. Boone County doesn't have a state park, by the way. We have other great parks, Twin Falls and Chief Logan State Park, etc. When I look at what's happened in Southern West Virginia and what the potential is, if we play our cards right, this place can come back as a shining star for the future of West Virginia. But we have to play our cards right. We have to invest in infrastructure and transportation, and I think we're doing that. We have to have good leadership, and I think I introduced some really great leaders up here. And we have to have folks in commerce and the governor's office that understands of our potential. Post-mine land use. I wish you all would write down how many times I've ever said post-mine land use up here. It really has the potential to transform our area. The Rock Creek project is one of many, areas down there that absolutely has all the potential in the world. So time will tell if the switch from manufacturing and industrial development to military training, and perhaps both those together, how that works out. I'm hoping and praying it works out good. I'm promised it will work out good, that we're not really changing anything about the Rock Creek project except the ingress and egress. At the same time, there's some people here that worry about if you're up there shooting a bunch of tanks, whether you're going to have industry sitting right beside it. Again, I hope, and I think only time will tell. So as we go forward in West Virginia, I think we ought to look at a loss of 40% of your economy in the Southwest coalfield area as a real sense of highest urgency. And we need to focus on that. We need to, because otherwise, we can all be an area instead of net giving, but net taking. So I think the people in the room, and I think if you read this resolution carefully, and I hope you will, that we have a chance. We're sitting at a critical time in our life where we can truly grow and diversify and develop a new economy in southern West Virginia, and thus propping up the entire state again. Urge adoption.
Further discussion. The senator from Wayne County.
It's unanimous consent that the remarks by the senator from Boone be placed in the journal.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. The senator from Logan County.
Southern West Virginia pride. Thank you, Mr. President. Southern West Virginia pride. I know that throughout the state, sometimes Southern West Virginia tends to become the brunt of some jokes, but for somebody who was raised in West Virginia, Southern West Virginia, we take a lot of pride in where we're from. And there's a lot of reasons why we should be, take that pride. We've got people from Southern West Virginia that have went on and did some amazing things. I mean, everybody here's heard of the Rocket Boys. Everybody here knows who Chuck Yeager is. But, I think that Southern West Virginia built this nation. This nation was built by the steel that come from the coal that come from the mountains of Southern West Virginia. And I think that, we hold a lot of pride in that. And sometimes I feel like, we don't get the respect that we deserve. You've heard me say this many times before, when the rich wage war, it's the poor who fight and die. Well, when you come from areas like we come from, sometimes military is the only path that you can take. But we hold a lot of pride in knowing that, Logan County, West Virginia, per capita sent more people to Vietnam than any county in America. The 38th parallel goes right through Boone County. And they specifically targeted people from southern West Virginia because they knew during the Korean War, West Virginia had the similar terrain with also the similar temperatures. So, we do hold a lot of pride in the things that we've done for this nation. And, it's important that everybody remembers that. And that's what we do, is we try to let people know some of the things that we've done, because we are struggling. We are struggling. My senior senator spoke about the Rock Creek development. It is very important for us to figure out something to put there that can put our people back to work, because our people deserve to be able to work. And I can assure you that if we're giving the opportunity, we will prove that we do possess one of the greatest workforces in this country. So I stand in support of this resolution, and I'm proud to be a Southern West Virginia boy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion, the senator from Wyoming County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to stand in support of this resolution. I am the example of Southern West Virginia woman. You can tell by my voice, and I'm proud of that. I want to just say one thing. We need to stop looking back We need to start looking forward. We need to stay on the path we're on and keep going to make Southern West Virginia a better place. I can see it in everything and everywhere I go and all the people. I believe in the people of my Southern West Virginia. I was born and raised in Southern West Virginia. My family founded Wyoming County. I don't think anybody here has deeper roots than I do, and I know nobody has deeper pride than I do. And I want to thank all these people that are such good people that I believe in, and I'm looking forward to helping our state and our counties grow and prosper and be great again. And it's going to be by the help of these people's support and the love of my Southern West Virginia. Thank you very much.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. The senator from Ohio County, Marion County.
Mr. President, I just ask unanimous consent that the remarks by the senator from Logan and the senator from Wyoming be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. The senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting the resolution.
Senator from Ohio moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting this resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in brief recess to present this resolution. Senate will please come to order. Senate will please come to order. Motions. Petitions.
There are none.
Unfinished business.
There is none.
Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 73, modifying crime of fleeing from scene of accident. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 73 amends a single section of the West Virginia Code, that's 17C4, Article 4, Section 1, relating to crashes involving death or personal injuries. And this is designated as Aaron's Law. So under the amendments, and let me, before I describe them all, say if this sounds familiar as I go through it, it'll be because this mirrors what we inserted into a House bill last year, House Bill 2099, and went back to the House late in the session. There was a conference committee appointed, but it didn't get to meet and reconcile differences between the House and the Senate. It adds some new subsections to the bill. It adds some subsections that delineate definitions of terms: bodily injury, physical injury, serious bodily injury would now be defined terms under the Act. There is still a penalty for fleeing the scene of an accident involving death. The penalty is increased. It is a felony under this Act. That's in subsection D, I believe. Yes, subsection D, fleeing the scene of an accident approximately causing the death of another when the person knows or has reason to know that a person would have suffered injury in the crash. It's a felony. Fine is up to $5,000. Imprisonment of not less than 1 or more than 5 years, or both, fine and imprisonment. And instead of just fleeing when there's an accident causing an injury, there are 2 levels of that now. There still a misdemeanor offense to leave the scene of an accident where there's an injury, where a person has reason to know that another person's been injured. That has an increased penalty. And then a new subsection, which subsection C in this bill, fleeing the scene of an accident when a person suffers a serious bodily injury. And that is now a felony. Before, only death was a felony, but fleeing now from a crash scene where there's a serious bodily injury, where the driver knew or had reason to believe that a person would have been injured in the collision, is now a felony, punishable by a fine of up to $2,500 or imprisonment not less than 1 year no more than 3 years, or both. The definition of serious bodily injury in the bill is an injury that creates a substantial risk of death, that causes serious or prolonged disfigurement, prolonged impairment of health, prolonged loss or impairment of the function of any bodily organ, loss of pregnancy, or the morbidity or mortality occurring because of a preterm delivery. Mr. President, be happy to try to answer questions. Otherwise, urge passage of the bill.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Not the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Further bills on third reading?
Yes, sir. Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 154, Department of Administration rule relating to parking. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 154 is the first of our rules bundles to hit the floor. The committee substitute contains what were originally 2 authorizing bills, Senate Bill 154 and Senate Bill 153, which are rolled together and bundled as we do when we pass these. Same practice as before. We're going to do it by cabinet secretary. And this committee substitute contains 2 rules. The first one, that was originally Senate Bill 154, Both of them come from the Department of Administration. The first one designates the type and scheme of parking to be used in addition to designated parking areas. The proposed rule adds some language covering a newer parking lot and allowing it to be used by the legislature during legislative sessions. And it also contains some technical cleanup of an existing rule. It is an amendment to an existing rule. And this rule has in it a 5-year sunset provision, which is required now for all rules in accordance with our Administrative Procedures Act. The committee substitute also contains Senate Bill 153. That's, again, yes, a Department of Administration rule relating to state-owned vehicles, and it includes a few substantive changes. It requires each agency to designate a fleet coordinator for the agency. In Section 4 of the changes, it changes the replacement schedule for vehicles from 4 years and 100,000 miles to 5 years and 120,000 miles, and it redefines the process through which agencies may finance a vehicle through fleet management, and it requires fleet coordinators to collect and submit vehicle data to fleet management. Be happy, Mr. President, try to answer questions members, senators may have. Otherwise, urge passage of this rules bundle, this bill.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Senator from Ohio requests unanimous consent that the bill be made effective from passage and that the roll call used on passage be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than 2/3 of those elected having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 296 relating to seller transfer of surplus property. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under current law, the proceeds from the sale of surplus property must be deposited in the same fund that was used to purchase the property. Senate Bill 296 would allow agencies to designate the fund into which proceeds from the sale of surplus property must be deposited when the fund that was originally used to purchase the property is no longer in existence. This is a legacy bill, and you'll hear me use this term a couple times here today, and you'll understand why here in a second. It's from Senate Bill 185 that came through the Committee on Government Organization and then the Committee of Finance during the 2017 regular session. It was previously sponsored by Senators Blair, Boso, and Rucker. The bill passed out of the Senate on a vote of 32-0 with 2 absent, but was not moved in House Finance. I urge passage.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting, having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 297, eliminating taxation on annuity considerations collected by life insurer. Third reading of the bill.
The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill eliminates the 1% tax imposed by West Virginia Code Chapter 33, Article 3, Section 15 on annuity considerations collected by a life insurer. This, again, is a legacy bill from the 2017 regular session. It was Senate Bill 464, which was previously sponsored by Senators Hall and Plymel. The bill passed the Senate 34-0, but it was not moved out of House Finance. I urge passage.
Further discussion? Not. The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will please communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 298, authorizing county assessors make separate entries in land books when real property is partly used for exempt and partly for non-exempt purposes. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? The senior senator from the 15th.
Again, thank you, Mr. President. Current law dictates that the Tax Commission keep a land book containing separate entries for 3 categories of property. All real property used exclusively for residential purposes is 1, all farms is 2, and all other real property is 3. Senate Bill 298 will add 2 new categories of property listings to which entries in the Tax Commission land book must be kept. The first category added by the bill is the property owned by organizations that are exempt from federal income tax, such as charities and other nonprofits, where the property is exclusively used for the purpose that is exempt from the property tax under West Virginia Code, Chapter 11, Article 3, Section 9. The second category is for the property owned by exempt organizations, but the property is not exclusively used for the purpose of exempted from state property taxation. Where the property is not used exclusively for the non-exempt purposes, the organization must list the portion of its property in square feet that is not used exclusively for an exempt purpose. The purpose of this bill is to allow portions of the otherwise exempt property that are being used for non-exempt purposes to be separately assessed and taxed. This again is a legacy bill from 2017. The bill number was Senate Bill 595. The previous bill was sponsored by Senator Hall and passed the Senate 34-0, but it did not make it out of the House Finance Committee. Again, I urge passage.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Not. The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will please communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 299, relating to mandatory insurance coverage for medical foods for amino acid-based formulas. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill requires insurance providers to cover prescription metabolic formulas for persons with severe protein allergic conditions or impaired absorption of nutrients caused by the disorders affecting the absorption surface, function, length, and motility of the gastrointestinal tract. The mandatory coverage extends only to persons who are 20 years old or younger. The coverage required would include medical foods for home use, which a physician has issued a prescription and has declared them to be medically necessary. The bill excludes persons diagnosed with cystic fibrosis or persons with an intolerance for lactose or soy from coverage. This, again, is a legacy bill from 2017. It was Senate Bill 526, which was previously sponsored by Senator Takuba. The bill passed the Senate 33-1, but was not taken up by the House Judiciary. I urge passage.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Not the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? Senior Senator from the 15th. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 31 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will please communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Further bills on third reading?
Yes, sir. Engrossed Senate Bill 301, removing limitation on amount collected by county via hotel occupancy tax used for medical or emergency services. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senior senator from the 15th.
I figured it out. Thank you, Mr. President. West Virginia Code, Chapter 7, Article 18, Section 14 allows up to 50% of the hotel and occupancy taxes collected by the counties or local municipalities to be used for certain permissible expenditures, such as construction or improvement of convention facilities, beautification projects, and medical care and emergency services. The current law, however, places a $200,000 cap on the amount of the hotel occupancy tax that may be spent on medical care and emergency services. This bill removes the current $200,000 limitation on the amount collectible by a county via the hotel occupancy tax that may be used for medical care and emergency service. This bill is identical to Senate Bill 664, which during the 2017 legislative session was recommended for passage by the Finance Committee and passed the Senate with a vote of 34, 2 against, and 2 absent. I urge passage, Mr. President.
Further discussion? The senior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Senator yield. Senator does yield.
Senator, just taking a quick look at this bill, I noticed that the counties that this applies to are really qualified. It's only counties that have an urgent need to preserve the delivery of acute medical care. There's an increase in the need for acute medical care and emergency services directly related to tourism, have recurrent flooding, inadequate economic base, no more than one hospital. I mean, it's really a lot of qualifications limited to if you could use that for medical services in the first place. My question to you is, do you know how many counties had met those qualifications and were able to use that money for medical services already? I mean, who does this apply to?
No, we're not aware of that.
Okay, so you don't know what counties actually meet these qualifications currently, so what counties will be affected by this bill?
I don't have that information at this time. We will get that for you if you would like, but I don't have that before me right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 25 yeas, 5 nays, 2 absent and not voting, more than the majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will please communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Further bills on third reading?
No, sir.
Bills on second reading?
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 53, correcting code reference in regard to certain persons exempted from prohibitions against carrying concealed deadly weapons. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 62, adjusting requirements for hiring school attendance directors. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 98, creating incentives to consolidate local government. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 110, requiring certain licensees notify law enforcement of EMS of life-threatening emergencies on premises. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 133, exempting renewal of certain contracts entered into during declared state of emergency. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 263, eliminating film tax credits. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 300, creating 5-year tax credits for businesses located on post-coal mine sites. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. Senators Stallings and Gaunch move to amend the bill on page 2, section 3.
The senator
line
from
7.
Boone County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Senator from Boone County requests unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The senator may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. What the amendment does is strikes out the amount that the business entity would be eligible to take against their income tax. The current bill basically says that they could take up to 50% of the entity's state income tax for a single year. This basically strikes out the 50% that they could take off 100% of their state's income tax for a single year. Mr. President, what the idea of this bill is to encourage development on post-mine land sites. So in effect, on these post-mine land sites, a business that would locate there could get up to half their capital expenditure as a form of a income tax credit. Because when someone develops a site, frequently there's a huge amount of capital outlay, but very little income to start off with. So basically, if we limit this to 50% of their income tax, it would be potentially a very low amount and not very attractive. So we're striking out the 50%, that they could get the full 100% tax credit on their income tax. Urge adoption of the amendment.
Further discussion, the senior senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in favor of this motion amendment. I believe the intention of the bill is an excellent one. It's meant to incentivize activity on these post-mine sites and create jobs. When we campaign, we all say we want to create jobs. And we could pass this bill in its original form, but the truth is I don't think it would do much. We'd feel good about it, but I don't think it would create any jobs. I believe this amendment does, in fact, incentivize job creation. And it's fitting that we'd be considering this today when we honor and recognize the folks south of the Kanawha River. I'd like to see this amendment pass. Thank you.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is adoption of the amendment. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
If not, the bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading. Further bills on second reading?
No, sir.
Bills on first reading?
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 146, correcting technical error within Solid Waste Management Act. First reading of the bill.
Bill be advanced. Introduction of guest. Remarks by members of the Senate. The senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. All of you probably came in today and saw this on your desk. It has the big number 44 on it. And what that represents was the number of people that West Virginia was losing every day in 2015. Now, that number is actually down a little in 2016 to 41 people. But we're still seeing a loss for our state. And I kind of wanted to stay in here today and talk about what that means and what changes our state has gone through. Now, I graduated from Fairmont State in 2003, and Mr. President, I pretty much had to leave the state of West Virginia. I couldn't find a job in what I wanted to do. I delivered flowers for a number of months before I was able to find a job, and I moved to D.C. And I lived there for about 8 years. But I wanted to come home the entire time I was gone. I loved D.C., I enjoyed my time there, I learned a lot, but I wanted to come home. but I couldn't find a way to really come home because nothing that I did in the military, nothing I did in the private sector really translated to something that I could do here. And so I decided I was going to go to law school. And I didn't know what I was going to do after I graduated from law school or even if I was going to get in, but I wanted to go. And so in 2011, I found out that I got into Duquesne, and I moved back home to Wellsburg, where I'm from. And in 2013, 2 years later, I was approached by someone. They said, "You should run for the House of Delegates." I didn't really know how to do that. I didn't know how to do it even when I signed up. And I thought, maybe this isn't the time. Maybe I shouldn't do it right now. Maybe I should just wait until I graduate from school. I can move forward after that. But that night I remember thinking the only thing that I thought about actually was, why not? Because I started to think about all of the friends that I had in D.C. that I graduated from Brooke with, that didn't live in Brooke County, didn't live in Wellsburg, don't live in this state. And I thought, that should be the reason I get into it. And that was the reason that I got into it. I hear time and time again from people that I graduated high school with, people that I went to Fairmont with, I want to come home, but I don't necessarily know the way to get there. What I do here, whether it be in North Carolina or Florida or some other state, what I do here, I can't do. There isn't an opening. It's not available. The market's not right in West Virginia. And so that really is what drives me. Now, there are 4 of us in this body under the age of 40. And my friend, the senator from Greenbrier, senator from Ohio, the senator from Monroe, we're the under 40 club. And if you go over to the House of Delegates, there are a lot of younger delegates. But I think that it's great to see young people want to get involved. And I think that all of us probably have the same reason for being here, in the fact that we want to make it so that everybody who left, who was our age, that lost generation of mountaineers that had to leave, can come back home. And what are the things that people need to be able to come back home? First, you need a job, first and foremost. And so there's no silver bullet, Mr. President, of things that we can do or one particular bill that's going to create jobs that's overnight. But if you look over the past number of years, we've done a lot. And some we've all agreed on, and some we didn't agree on. But, you know, West Virginia had the 2nd highest GDP growth in the nation in the 2nd quarter of 2017. And our unemployment rate was the 3rd sharpest decline, went from 6% to 4.4%. Only 2 other states had a sharper decline in that. So I think that what we're doing is slightly working. I think that over time, it's going to take hold. If you look at job growth in West Virginia, if you look at December of 2016 versus December of 2017, we added over 2,500 jobs to the rolls in the state of West Virginia. If you look at November of 16 and November of 17, again, over 2,500 jobs. And that's just non-farm employment. The numbers are greater in mining, construction, education, and health services. Same story, October 17 against October 16, over 3,200 non-farm jobs. And that's terrific. They're great numbers. And not everything, as we are well aware in the state, is sunshine. You know, we heard the senator from Boone talking earlier that not every part of the state is seeing a strong recovery. Not every part of the state is seeing the growth that the Northern Panhandle is seeing, that North Central West Virginia, the Eastern Panhandle is seeing. And so we need to do everything that we can to rise all of West Virginia up, and I think that we're doing that. I had a piece of legislation, it was the first bill that I had become law. In 2016, it was the Young Entrepreneur Reinvestment Act. And for folks, the age is 35 years old, it cuts fees for the Secretary of State if you want to start a business here in West Virginia. 56% of millennials want to start a business. That's their desire. And so my piece of legislation back then was aimed at cutting those fees and making it easier for them to do so here in West Virginia. And since that time, over 100 people have taken advantage of that and started a business here in West Virginia. Education is the next biggest thing that we hear about. And if they come home, if they have kids, people my age are starting families, they have younger kids, they want to make sure that they have an education system that they would feel confident in having their children attend. And I look at some of the proposals that we have now, the community and technical college proposal, We're looking at ways, and it's not a perfect system yet, and I know that we're working on it, finding ways to give our teachers a much-needed pay raise to ensure that their health insurance doesn't increase, because obviously they're the backbone of our schools. But I think that we should take a look at other issues as well there. There are almost 7,000 charter schools in the United States of America in 42 different states, and West Virginia has 0. If you look at magnet schools, there are over 3,000 of these in the United States, and we have 0 in the state of West Virginia. I heard a number the other day. There's a post-secondary option program in the state of Ohio, Mr. President, and over 52,000 students attend this, and they have $120 million in college savings. The state of West Virginia has 12 students in a program like that, just 12, and it only equates to about $72,000 of college savings. And so all of these things are different, and maybe they would work here, maybe they wouldn't, and they're different from what we were doing in the past, but maybe that's why we should look at them, because they are different from what we've done in the past. And maybe we just need to move away from that, move towards something that is maybe a little more progressive, a little more different than what we've done. And the third thing that is the biggest thing that's on the list that people look for, and this kind of surprised me, is broadband access. Mr. President, I'm sure you're aware that we did a broadband bill last year, and we're looking to expand broadband access both on a commercial level and a residential level. Because when you get into rural areas, people might want to live there. We had a lot of people here from Tucker County yesterday, and they want to make sure that they can live where they want, not based on where they can get internet access. If you're a business, you want to make sure that you have access to be able to process all of your transactions, to manage your warehouse. So those are the three things that it's been brought to my attention that are really kind of towards the top of the list. And I think that we're working hard towards all of that. And I think that we're working hard together, not as individuals, but I think that if we stick together as a body, if we come to agreement where we can, compromise where we have to, I think that we can continue to get these things done. A lot of you here in the room, you're a little bit older than I am, you might have grandchildren that live away. And they had to move away because your children had to move away. And that's a sad story. There are a lot of people in Wellsburg that I know that only see their kids around Thanksgiving, Christmas, in the summer, because they come back from whatever state it is that they live in. And that's sometimes the only time that I see my friends. My wife and I, she's from Wellsburg as well. And we don't have a set number of couples that we go out with on a Friday, Saturday night because we only see them around Thanksgiving and Christmas when they come home. And it's difficult. So I look forward to working with you all over the next 50 some odd days that we can find ways to bring what I call that lost generation back home and to make sure that we make opportunities in West Virginia for everybody, not particular groups, but we work to diversify the economy, that we raise everybody up and move the state forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further remarks? The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. As always, Angie Settle with West Virginia Health Right heard the call, and when several members are asking for flu shots, she is here today voluntarily, so if there's any members that still need a flu shot, she'll be in the President's conference room administering those to anyone who would need one.
Remarks by members. Remarks by members. The senator from Tucker County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to speak a little bit. The gentleman, the senator from Cabell County yesterday, when he was talking about the state parks, kind of got my attention because most of you know, and Senator Sapole and my district, we have several beautiful state parks. We have the Lost River State Park there in Hardy County. We got Canaan Valley, Blackwater there in Tucker County, Cathedral State Park, which is one of the last stands of virgin timber on the East Coast. And we have Cooper's Rocks, and then we have a few others scattered out through the district, but those are the main parks. So it kind of caught my attention and got my curiosity up. So I asked to talk to the director of the DNR, and I got the bill out and looked, and just what was entailed in this bill. And I just want to share some of those points. What I'm trying to say is I think we need to take the time and look at the bill. Looking at it, I think there's some things that we can do to make it better. But after talking to the foresters, DNR, Fish and Wildlife people, and looking at the states around us, this is pretty well a common practice throughout the United States, to be in fact. I mean, even our national forest, especially, people know they have the controlled burns out in out west in Yellowstone Park for wildlife habitat, and the turf forest fires there. And looking at this, I just wanted to hit on a couple points that they can be no more than 4 trees per acre taken off. That's 4 trees per acre, and I believe it was 6. They have to be at least 16 inches in diameter at chest high. So we're talking mature timber here. And the money, he got the senator from Cabell got me concerned because I was agreeing with him that, this is a poor way to subsidize our budget, is going in and cutting the timber off of our state parks and our state forest. But the money goes back to the DNR for the park system, is what I was told from, the bill says it goes to the DNR. After talking to the DNR last night, they said it would go back in to upgrade our park systems, our state park systems. And there's tracts of land. It only affects 9, the way I understand, 9 state parks, state forests right now. And there's tracts protected. Any tract that, they're not going to cut the picnic areas down up in Blackwater. Anything that has any historical value, like Cathedral State Park, would be protected from this because of its historical value. But it would allow them, like many of you remember, after Superstorm Sandy up in our area, it was a mess. I was 17 days without electricity, so I still have nightmares about it. But Cathedral State Park was almost destroyed, and the way the law is now, they couldn't do anything but go in and just cut the paths open, because they could not, by law or code, remove anything from that state park. And we're talking trees that was, worth several $1,000s that are just laying there rotten now, that did anybody good, and they're still there. And it's still, the park is still and never will be back to normal what it was. So this would have helped that with also, but it protects tracts of lands for where it's tourism, like, they couldn't go into Babcock and cut the trees around the mill or anything like that. There's safeguards put in place for all that. And talking to the chief of wildlife and them and the forestry are really behind this, because a lot of our state forests, especially where we allow people to hunt on, it needs some timbering done to enhance wildlife habitat. So, of course, everyone knows that. That's, like I said before, that's the main reason that they do a lot of it out west, is because of habitat. And, the forestry department, these are experts that would overlook this program. Talking to them, it sort of put me at ease. And our constituents from Tucker County met with them yesterday, and when they got here yesterday, they was all totally against this. But leaving last night, when we left the Culture Center, they were relieved that and supported the program that the state it's in now. Like I said, it's not perfect. If it does come out, it might not even come out, but if it does come out and we work it through committees, I think, we can clear up the language where, designate the money does go to maybe the state park that is cut out of, so that state park benefits from that, because our state park, everybody here can agree, needs a lot of work, and they haven't been a whole lot of money. But, the whole thing of this is not about the money. It's about managing one of our natural resources here in the state. I don't want to see, state forest destroyed state parks. You know, he was sure that it would be done like, you know, in Canaan Valley. When the leaves are out, that's the busiest time of year. You know, they wouldn't be in the summer and the fall. What that, it'd be done in the winter. A lot of it would even be done by helicopter. You know, where they wouldn't have to cut tram roads and stuff like that. So, you know, speaking to the DNR and the forestry people and the wildlife people and their constituents in Tucker County, because Tucker County, that is a huge, you know, that's our. Like I told you before, most of our 50% of our land is owned by federal and state government, and another almost 30% by timber companies up there, or land management companies. And that was a big red flag for people in my district. And I feel after talking to the DNR and the Forestry Department, wildlife people yesterday, with constituents, and Senator Saipo and I, you know, is concerned because the gentleman, when he was talking about that, raised a red flag because, you know, that was the last thing. But after looking at the bill and talking to the people involved, if we do this right, if this bill does come out and we do it right, amend it, and make it the best bill possible, I honestly think it will be a tremendous asset to our state parks and our state forests. You know, we still do. One thing I was interested to see that the state of West Virginia, we lose more timber from, you know, storm damage or falling over, or whatever, that rots a year than what we cut a year. And that's sort of a, you know, troubling. That's not a very good way to manage a resource. And, you know, I would just ask that when we go into this, if it does come out, that we have an open mind and try to make sure that it is done right. Because honestly, if it is done right, this is a good thing for our state parks and, you know, our state forest. It's good for our wildlife, which, you know, if there's a lot of people comes to West Virginia just to hunt, you know. So I thank the gentleman from Cabell County for drawing it to the attention, because it got me thinking about it. Because I'll be honest with you, I thought it was one of these harebrained ideas that, you know, a lot of these bills, you know, gets introduced, you look at them and think there's no way that's ever going to come out. You know, it's just too far out there. But after looking at it, it has a lot of merit to it. And I would just ask as a body that going forward that we just keep an open mind, and if this does come out, get the experts in there. You know, if I'm going to survey, I'm going to go to my co-senator here who is a surveyor, you know, and I'm not going to give anyone physical therapy. I'm saying all of us have our own profession, unless you want to. I mean, but all of us have our. So I think it's important that we lean on our professionals. You know, we pay these people to manage our forests, manage our wildlife. And these are the experts on it. And, you know, there's a lot of bad publicity. It has already came out, which I'm sure I don't have to tell the body here that we probably defend and talk about more bills with groups and constituents that comes out that is never going to see the light of day. But we still, you know, it throws up red flags to get people worried about it. And, you know, we spend a lot of time defending stuff that we're never even going to have to address. And there, you know, there's a lot of groups that has put a lot of bad publicity out there that does not have the facts on it. You know, they just see the bill where they're cutting timber, and, you know, there's groups out there, and I'm not, you know, picking on any one group or anything, but you mentioned tree, and, you know, it's, you know, they don't want a tree cut, they don't want, and people that's in the know that you can't, you know, you can't survive like that. So with that being said, I thank the gentleman from Cabell County to drawing this to my attention, to make me research it and talk to the people that it was going to affect in these areas, constituents, the people who was going to be responsible for these programs. And I encourage you to try to get educated on it so we have an open mind, if this does come up, that we can do what is best for the state of West Virginia and for our park system. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Remarks by members. The senator from Cabell County.
Thank you, Mr. President. And you know, I didn't know the senator from Tucker before he came over from the House, and admire his leadership. I serve on the Energy Committee, of which he's the chair. I've found great wisdom in his words. But on this point, we're going to have to give him a little bit of a counterpoint. I've only been here a short time, but I know that when everybody says it's not about the money, it's about the money, okay? Somebody's going to profit from this. Now, the resistance to this move to timber state parks, it's not a part of the Obama agenda, okay? The people are experts who are fighting this. The people who go to our state parks are the ones that are lighting up our phones and the emails. Logging in the state forest is fine. It's legal. It's happening right now at several state forests that I'm aware of. I believe Calvin Price has logging. Cabway Lingo is undergoing some logging operations. So I get that. But the state parks, I just can't imagine who's going to come in here and justify timbering Group Mountain Battlefield State Park. And you can say, well, they say they're not going to do that one, and they're not going to do this other one. Well, I don't trust them, and neither do the public. The public have paid for those parks. The public utilize those parks. Times are hard. Not everybody gets to go to the beach for a vacation. Many of our citizens spend their vacation time at a state park. I don't trust the timber companies. Or is there some tree shortage I don't know about? That we don't have enough trees in West Virginia that we've got to hit the state parks? I mean, logging trails, logging trucks. How are they going to do this? I don't trust them. I don't think we should trust them. We're going to ride that rocket ship to the moon with all this growth. Why do we need the money for the state to replace the windows in the state park lodges? We need to cut down their trees. Very short-sighted. All the way back in the Great Depression, and it was a Republican legislature, by the way. That was when this was enacted, the prohibition of timbering the state parks. Guess what? That was before the 80 years of hell that the Democrats unleashed. That was a Republican legislature that passed those. So, you know, this is just common sense. And I have always much respect for my colleague from Tucker. And maybe the people from Tucker County all went back yesterday and are for this. But our people are smart. And our people know that our state parks are a treasure. And we're going to go $20 million on tourism. I kind of agree with that. I think tourism is a major key for our future. So why are we going to cut the trees down at the state parks? And nobody's going to do this except for one reason: profit. Nobody's going to go get a timber bid except for a profit. Now, if that's what you're in favor of, the free market, we're going to respectfully agree to disagree. But I agree. I've read the bill, and I understand that it does have some limitations on it. But I think we can find our timber somewhere else, and we can find a way to fund our state parks with all the growth that's in the future. Thank you.
Further remarks? Further remarks? The senator from Braxton County.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, you know, as I've said here today, and I've heard different statements about different issues about our state, and I applaud you guys. And I know that everybody here wants to do the right thing. We have different opinions about sometimes what the right thing is, but see, we can work with that as long as we know that we all want to do the right thing. And differences in opinion sometimes is good. That's how we get from one extreme to the other, maybe to meet in the middle. But if we'll stop and just think a minute about everything we're talking about revolves around money, the lack of it. We've got to quit robbing Peter to pay Paul in our state. We talked about our education problem. We all know that our teachers are underpaid. Our state employees are underpaid. We know that the costs of living are increasing, the PEIA, and all these things. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to figure out how to bring more money to our state. And we're going to have an opportunity this year to do that. We could put our state into one of the most profitable states in these United States, and we can do this without putting one bit of burden on our taxpayers. The senator from Logan talks about the rich land that we stand on. Look, folks, we don't have a diversified economy, unfortunately, in our state. We're an energy state. That's what we do. We have got to ask for more money from our energy companies. That's where the money's at. And we can sit here and we can pass all this back and forth, and we can timber our state parks, and we can talk our teachers into taking a 1% raise and taking 3 back for them, but it's short-sighted thinking. The only way that we're going to put this state into the position that we would all like to see it put in is with more money. And if anybody else has a better idea where to get that money, I sure want to sit down and talk to you. But we have got to take a hard position, and we have to do what's right for the citizens of our state. You know, Jesse James, when they asked him, why do you rob banks? He said, because that's where the money's at. As legislators, we have to do the right thing. We want the energy companies to be profitable, and we want them to drill. And there's things that we could give them. And I'm going to tell you right now, you guys know my position on the integrated leasings and the poolings and things like that. I'm willing to give them every bit of that. They talk about the billions of dollars that we're losing because of that. Let's give it to them. But let's take 3% more back. Do some research. Find out what 3% more on our severance tax would do for our state. And remember this. On today's market and the amount of gas that we're producing today, 1% is somewhere around $40 to $50 million. But when these pipelines are built and this gas starts quadrupling in the amount that we're producing now, and the gas price goes from $2 to $5, $6, which has been the normal for the last 20 years if you average them out, you're talking about $150 million per 1%. Put that into our budget, and all of a sudden, we can take care of PEIA. We can give our employees what they want. We can do the things. We can offer hope again for our state. No one likes taxes. I'm telling you, I don't like them. But it's part of what it takes to operate the government. Let's sit down and let's work together. Democrats, Republicans, let's be the West Virginia State Senate that makes our state profitable so that we have money to do the things we need to do. Our citizens count on us. That's why they elected us to come down and to represent them. And I want you to know this is not a Democrat-Republican issue. This is a state of West Virginia issue. I think it's time that we sit down together and try to come up with something we can live with. But the energy companies have told us they have to have the pooling, they have to have the integrated leasing. Okay? Let's give that to them. But in return, let's ask for 3% more and 1% for the surface owners. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further remarks, the senator from Logan County.
I would like to request the remarks by the senator from Braxton be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Senator from Logan requests unanimous consent that the remarks by the senator from Braxton be printed in the appendix of the journal. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Further remarks, the senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Requesting unanimous consent, the remarks by the senator from Tucker, the senator from Brooke, and the senator from Cabell be printed in the appendix of the journal.
Senator from Ohio requests unanimous consent that the remarks by the senator from Tucker, the senator from Brooks, and the senator from Brooke, and the senator from Cabell be printed in the appendix of the journal. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Further remarks. Further remarks. Miscellaneous business. The senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. Requesting unanimous consent that leave of absence for the day be granted to the senator from Harrison and the senator from Monongalia.
Senator from Ohio requests unanimous consent that leave for the day be granted to the senator from Harrison and the senator from Monongalia. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Subject to announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until Monday at 11 a.m.
Are there announcements? The chair has an announcement. I am hereby appoint Senator from Nicholas County as the vice chair of the Committee on Finance, and the senator from Nicholas County will be removed from the Committee on Economic Development. Further announcements. The senior senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Finance will meet Monday at 3 p.m. at room 451M. It'll be the full committee, and Joe's agenda for that afternoon will be posted later today for everybody's information. Thank you.
The senator from Preston County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your government organization subcommittee, that is subcommittee, on volunteer fire departments and emergency medical services will meet today at 1 p.m. in 208 West, 1 p.m. today.
Further announcements? Further announcements. Not the question before the Senate is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until Monday at 11 a.m.? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate adjourned until Monday at 11 a.m.
House will be in order. All those not having privileges to the floor will please vacate the chamber. Members and guests will please rise as we are led in prayer today by Bishop Samuel Moore. Bishop Moore is the guest of the gentleman from the 16th District, Delegate Hornbuckle. Bishop Moore.
Speaker Armstead, to the delegation of this great and august body, particularly the delegation from Cabell Huntington, the 16th District Delegate, my friend Sharon Hornbuckle, who made it possible for me to have this moment of honor. Let us pray. God in heaven, we are eternally grateful to you. We thank you that you've allowed us the privilege of being part of this body. You've allowed us the privilege of serving you as we serve the people that you love. You are the Creator, you are our Lord, you are our Father, and you are our friend. We ask now that you would speak to the hearts of these who have given themselves and dedicated themselves to the cause of serving the people of this marvelous state. I ask that you would, as Solomon said, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, like rivers of water, and he turneth it whithersoever he will. Please, God, we ask that you would allow these to put their hearts in your hand, that you might give direction. I pray that you would homogenize our spirits, consolidate our thoughts, energize our efforts as we go about the business of legislating so that the people of this great state will be blessed. Now, Father, make all these among the chosen here to know that you are God, who is a God of peace, a God of order. That contrast does not necessarily intend conflict, and that personalities must be put aside in order to meet progress, that we would do all the work toward furthering the greater good. Because, as it has been said, the rising tide causes all the ships to set up higher in the harbor. Father, I ask that you would speak to the hearts of these and give us an ear to hear. Know that we are in your hands. Bless us to be the blessing that the people of West Virginia need. With peace, wisdom, and guidance, we proceed. Come, thou Almighty King, and help us to praise thy name. Help us to praise thy name, O glorious. Thou art victorious. Come and reign over us, Ancient of Days. By the Spirit of the Holy Ghost, in the precious name Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop Moore. Members and guests will please remain standing as we're led in the Pledge of Allegiance by the gentleman from the 16th, Delegate Hornbuckle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House, please join me in honoring our great country with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reading of the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Charleston, Thursday, January 18th, 2018.
Chair recognizes the gentleman for the 19th, Delegate Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read.
Gentleman for the 19th asks unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Journal is approved as having been read. Introduction of guests. Gentleman from the 23rd, Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have with us several youngsters from Brookview Elementary School today, some serving as pages and some as visitors that are members of, if not the only, one of the only National Honor Societies for elementary schools. With us serving as pages are Cole Elkins, Zachary McNeely, Sophie Cook, and Cash Adkins, also members that are with them today in the gallery. I think they're in the West Gallery to the rear, if they would stand and be recognized. Taft Berry, Callie Brown, Lauren Burns, Haley Capps, Carly Petrie, Grace Robinette, and Colton Ruiz. They are being chaperoned today by Susan Hoddle, Lori Berry, Jamie Cook, Shauna McNeely, Amber Brown, Jessica Ruiz, Vicki Petrie, and Hilda Dean. If they would stand and be recognized, and if the House would please give them a warm welcome.
Lady for the 57th, Delegate Rowan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a former Girl Scout and the mother of a former Girl Scout, I would like to introduce the mother of Girl Scouts, Miranda Baird. She is here today with two other Girl Scouts, Michaela Baird and Zoe Baird. Would the House please give them a wide and wonderful West Virginia welcome?
Lady from the 31st, Delegate Arvine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have some special guests from Raleigh County, actually from Shady Spring High School, that are in the chamber visiting the auditor's office today. If they would stand, and on behalf of all the delegates in Raleigh County, I'd like to introduce them. Be Jaron Bragg, Seth Buckland, Alexis Chin, Reagan Hefner, Erica Hagel, James Higgins, Zachary Metter, Dustin Redden, Justin Tolbert, and they're with their teacher, Tim Smith. And I'd ask the House to give them a warm welcome.
Lady from the 49th, Delegate Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a former Brownie and Girl Scout, it's my pleasure to welcome today Michaela Dunlap, Kendall Dunlap, Haley Dunlap, and Addison Bonner and their families to the chamber. Please make them welcome.
Lady from the 59th, Delegate Blair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a current Girl Scout, I'm just kidding. But as a former Girl Scout, I'd like to introduce Kagan Graley, Emma McClung, Kylie Abbott, Miranda Owen, Jace Owen, and their parents, Sarah McClung, Chrissy Graley, Jason Abbott, and Jessica Owen. Thank you, guys.
Gentleman from 27th, Delegate Schott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Delegate Ellington and Delegate Gearhart and I have a friend of ours here today we'd like to introduce, who has not now, nor has he ever been a Girl Scout. But we welcome him here today. Mike Swats is in the North Gallery. He's here today to file to join this body in the upcoming election. So please make him welcome.
Lady from the 16th, Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a former Brownie and Girl Scout, I remember, on my honor, I will try to do my duty to God and my country. I would like you all to also welcome Keely Asbury and Jacqueline Asbury, who are accompanied by their mother, Samantha Asbury from Lincoln County. Please make them welcome.
John from the 28th, Delegate Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the North Gallery today, we have visiting with us Summers County Commissioner Jack Woodrum. If he would stand up to be recognized, please. And accompanying him is County Chairman of the Republican Party there in Summers County, Jeff Lyons, if he would stand up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John, for the 22nd, Delegate Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the 22nd District and the Lincoln County delegation, we have some special people from Lincoln County today with the Girl Scouts also. We have Alex Hurt, Iris Gingrich, Kelly Gingrich, Marie Pauley, Declan Pauley, and they're escorted today by Annette Aggins, Sam Gingrich, and Casey Pauley. Will the House make them feel welcome?
Lady for the 51st, Dr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of all the female delegates, many of us of whom have been Girl Scouts, and actually we had a Girl Scout troop that we haven't really, we need to reactivate. I would like to introduce two young women who are here today, or one young woman who's here today, Rayleigh Marker and her parents, Brooke and Jarek Marker. If they would please stand, and would the House make them welcome?
John from 22nd, Delegate Eldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not a Girl Scout, but I do want to introduce some Girl Scout. These young ladies get together periodically and do great things, from painting rocks to going on hiking trips, and I really like it. It gives a special bond. When I got this big list, I said, oh, Lord. So I went around on the chamber here to see if we had any Girl Scouts here to introduce Girl Scouts. And I was really surprised we had so many. And I want to thank you all for participating with this. I want to introduce some special Girl Scouts. Miss Jillian Eldridge, please stand. Madeline Eldridge, please stand. And my wife, Stacy Nowicki Eldridge, please stand. Make you feel welcome.
John for the 19th, Delegate Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Robert Thompson and myself, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to the House a very special page from Wayne County. This page is a middle school student at Buffalo School in Wayne County, and her name is Brenna Barnett. Brenna, would you stand up? House, please make her welcome.
John for the 19th, Delegate Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to introduce Brenna's chaperones, her parents, Tammy and David Barnett. Please welcome them as well.
John from the 2nd, Delegate DeSario.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining us today in the South Gallery, we have two different groups of hardworking West Virginians. I'd like for the operating engineers, Local 132 members to stand, as well as the Painters District 53 Council. Thank you for all your hard work, and would the House help me in making them feel welcome.
John from 36, Delegate Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the Kanawha County delegation, we have some students from Alum Creek Elementary paging for us today. We have Anthony Whitlock, Micah Duty, and Gabrielle Barnhart. We also have their chaperones, Derek Barnhart and Teresa Whitlock, if the House would make them feel welcome.
Further inductions. Gentleman for the 58th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us in the back of the chamber our Doctor of the Day today, Dr. Mitch Jakes of Charleston. If the House will make the good doctor welcome.
Reports of standing committees.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration House Joint Resolution 103, Election of West Virginia Board of Education Members Amendment, reports the same back with recommendation that it be adopted and that it be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report be received and the resolution be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration House Bill 4006, revising the processes through which professional development is delivered to those who provide public education. Reports the same back with amendment, with the recommendation that it do pass as amended and that it be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Report be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration House Bill 2799, prohibiting the superintendent of schools from requiring a physical examination to be included to the application for a minor's work permit. Reports the same back with amendment, with the recommendation that it do pass and that it be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security has had under consideration House Bill 2822, allowing honorably discharged veterans who possess certain military ratings to qualify to take an examination for licensing as a plumber, electrician, and sprinkler fitter. Reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass and that the second reference to the Committee on Government Organization be dispensed.
Report be received. Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, the two chairs having conferred, ask unanimous consent to dispense with the second reference.
Gentleman 58th asks unanimous consent that the second reference to the Committee on Government Organization be dispensed with. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The second reference is dispensed with.
Your Committee on Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security has had under consideration House Bill 2838, allowing military veterans who meet certain qualifications to qualify for examination for license as an emergency medical technician. Reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass and that the second reference to the Committee on Health and Human Resources be dispensed.
Report be received. Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, the two chairs having conferred, ask unanimous consent to dispense with the second reference.
Gentleman 58th asks unanimous consent that the second reference to the Committee on Health and Human Resources be dispensed with. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Second reference is dispensed.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has originating in the Committee on Health and Human Resources is House Bill 4232, relating to the Board of Examiners on Registered Professional Nurses. Reported with recommendation that it do pass.
Report be received. With regard to House Bill 4232, in accordance with House Rule 80, the bill will be a second reference to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4067, Board of Pharmacy, Rule relating to licensure and practice of pharmacy, and House Bill 4070, Rule relating to continuing education for physicians and pediatric physicians, reported with amendment, with the recommendation that each do pass as amended and that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report be received and the bills be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4156, establishing the qualifications of full and part-time nursing school faculty members. Reports the same back with amendment, with the recommendation that it do pass as amended and that it be referred to the Committee on Education.
Report be received and the bill be referred to the Committee on Education.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 2607, extending the maximum period of confinement a judge may impose for certain first-time probationary violations. Reports back to committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
Report be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration House Bill 4161, exempting the State Conservation Committee and the Conservation Agency from the requirements of the Purchasing Division for contracts related to flood recovery, and House Bill 4162, granting authority to the State Conservation Committee to contract for flood response. Reports the same back with the recommendation that each do pass and that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report be received. The bills be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration House Bill 4151, Board of Veterinary Medicine, rule relating to schedule of fees, House Bill 4052, rule relating to certified animal euthanasia technicians, and House Bill 4053, rule relating to organization and operation and licensing of veterinarians, reports the same back with the recommendation that each do pass and that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report be received and the bills be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4061, Board of Pharmacy rule relating to controlled substances monitoring program, House Bill 4062, rule relating to registration of pharmacy technicians, House Bill 4063, rule relating to Uniform Controlled Substances Act, House Bill 4064, rule relating to centralized prescription processing, House Bill 4065, rule relating to immunizations administered by pharmacists and pharmacy interns, House Bill 4066, rule relating to pharmacist recovery networks, House Bill 4068, rule relating to osteopathic physician assistants, and House Bill 4069, rule relating to licensure, disciplinary, and complaint procedures, continuing education, physician assistants. Reports the same back with the recommendation that each do pass and that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report be received and each bill be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Reports to select committees. Messages from the Executive. Messages from the Senate. Resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 19, World Moya Moya Awareness Day.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as listed on the Chamber automation system.
The gentleman 58th asks unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with. Each resolution be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the Chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Each resolution will be considered formally introduced and so referred. Petitions. Motions. Bills introduced.
House Bill 4202, Model Veterans Treatment Court Act.
Gentleman from the 58th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, and each bill be considered formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as listed on the Chamber automation system.
Gentleman 58th asks unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, and each bill be considered formally introduced, referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the Chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Each bill be considered formally introduced and so referred. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4020, making technical corrections in the code when referencing Chapter 49.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from the 27th, Delegate Schott, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those of you who were here in 2015 will remember where there was a substantial rewrite of Chapter 49 dealing with child welfare. And a number of the sections were renumbered and renamed, including the articles and sections in the chapter. Currently, there are incorrect cross-references to Chapter 49 spread throughout the code because these cross-references to Chapter 49 had not been updated since the 2015 rewrite of that chapter. This bill basically addresses those issues. It revises sections throughout the code in order to correct antiquated cross-references to Chapter 49. Otherwise, the only substantial change that it makes is it adds a definition in Chapter 49 for child abuse and/or neglect. That definition was removed during the 2015 rewrite. However, because there are still revisions to child abuse and/or neglect throughout the code, the definition was added back in for circumstances in which a section specifically refers back to that Chapter 49 for the definition of child abuse and neglect. The Judiciary Committee passed out a committee substitute that made 2 additional corrections to cross-references of Chapter 49 and slightly clarified the definition of child abuse and/or neglect. The definition merely refers readers to the definitions of abused child and neglected child in Chapter 49. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
Are there other members desiring to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, the question for the House is the passage of the bill. Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. Clerk, prepare the machine. Has each member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On next question, 95 ayes, 0 nays, 5 members absent not voting. Majority of members present having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk, please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4020.
Are there amendments to the title? Now the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Clerk, please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 3089 relating to the adoption of instructional resources for use in the public schools.
Are there amendments? Not the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4002 providing that all delegates shall be elected from 100 single districts following the United States Census in 2020.
Are there amendments? Not the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4013 clarifying venue in West Virginia state courts as it applies to non-residents of the state.
Are there amendments? Not the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
House Bill 4026 exempting cashiers from licensure under the Larry W. Border Pharmacy Practice Act.
Are there amendments? Not the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading. Bills on first reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2028 relating to the venue for suits and other actions against the state.
Bill be advanced. Leaves of absence. Gentleman from the 58th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, Delegates Anderson, Ellington, Moore, and Wilson.
Without objection, leaves will be granted. Remarks by members of the House. John from the 16th, Delegate Hornbuckle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am proud to announce that Juliana Curry and the good folks at the American Cancer Society will be having the Dick Henderson and Tony Lewis Memorial Basketball game. I know in the past, before I was elected, that they've had a basketball game here. We're going to be able to bring that back to honor these guys. It will be the House versus the Senate, so we will be having sign-ups immediately after the floor session. I will have the sign-ups. You can also see Delegate Maynard or Delegate Byrd as well for the sign-ups. We'll be selling tickets as well. I know their goal is $1,000 to raise. Personally, I would like to beat that goal that they have and really help those folks out. On top of that, I think this is an amazing opportunity for us to have a lot of fellowship, and build some camaraderie. It'll be a very long session. I think that would go a long ways. So again, right after the floor session, please see myself, Delegate Maynard or Delegate Byrd for sign-ups, and also to have some tickets to sell. Thank you.
John from 32nd, Delegate Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to make a comment on the bill that we just passed, 4020. And I applaud the judiciary legal staff, our judiciary staff, for incorporating chapter and article and code numbers versus writing it out. Because every time you read the code and it references another chapter, code, and chapter, article, and section, it's always written backwards. It always says Section 3, Article 5D, Chapter 49. So you have to read it in the reverse to figure out what it is. But now, in this particular bill, which is a lengthy bill, instead it just simply says 49-4-402. And I think that is a trend, and I hope everyone starts using that trend as they draft bills. And eventually, I'd like to see the entire code that fashion so that it's quick reference. Just a note. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
John from the 17th, Delegate Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman from the 16th yield for a question?
Gentleman yield. Gentleman yields. Hesitantly, but he yields.
Yes. With our basketball game coming up, have you given any consideration to inviting the coach of the state to coach our side to beat the Senate? Since he wants to be coach.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It must be Friday. Further remarks. Gentleman from the 20th, Doug Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the gentleman continue to yield.
Gentleman yield. Gentleman from 16th yield. Gentleman yields.
Yes.
Does that also mean we get Reggie and our state trooper staff to play with us?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. That's all we need, Mr. Speaker.
That'd be a big help, but I don't know if we needed it in the first place. That's good. Further remarks? Miscellaneous business. Gentleman from the 58th.
Subject to announcements, Mr. Speaker, I move the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Monday.
Are there announcements? Gentleman from 64th, Delegate Householder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on Finance will meet on Monday, January 22nd, beginning at 2 p.m. for a budget hearing by the Department of Health and Human Resources. And the committee will also take up legislation, and the agenda is posted.
Gentleman from 33rd, Delegate Hanshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Judiciary Committee will resume the posted agenda upstairs at 12:15 today, and we'll also meet at 9 a.m. Monday morning. We'll have the agenda for that meeting posted later. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 51st, Delegate Statler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet Monday, January the 22nd at 2 p.m. in the Education Committee room. The agenda is posted. Also, Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Fire Departments and Emergency Medical Services will meet Monday, January 22nd at 4 p.m. in the Government Organizational Committee room. The agenda will be posted.
Lady from 31st, Delegate Arbonne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization will meet at 3 p.m. Monday afternoon, January 22nd in the Government Organization Committee room, 215 East. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman from the 62nd, Delegate Overton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on Redistricting, which is dealing with House Bill 2383, will be meeting Monday morning, January 22nd at 8:30. The committee members are Delegates Kessinger, Pushkin, Lovejoy, and Zatita.
Gentleman from the 48th, Delegate Hamrick. Gentleman from the 48th, Delegate Hamrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Roads and Transportation will meet Monday at 1 p.m. in the House Government Organization Committee room.
Further announcements? If not, the question for the House is a motion by the gentleman from the 58th that the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Monday. All in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes appear to have it. Ayes do have it. Declare the House adjourned until 11 a.m. Monday.